Leo, a doctor is bringing urgent news, and what's about to be revealed could change everything. This isn't a clickbait warning or just another vague horoscope headline. If you found yourself here right now, it's because something inside you has been whispering that something is off. Maybe your body's been tired in a way that rest doesn't fix. Maybe you've been brushing aside symptoms, hoping they'd just disappear. Maybe you've been telling yourself to power through, like you always do. But this time, Leo, that quiet voice in the background? It's not going away. You didn't land here by accident. There's a reason this message is reaching you now. There's something in your energy, in your spirit, that's calling for deeper attention. And what's coming next isn't meant to scare you, it's meant to wake you up. Because the truth is, a major turning point is unfolding. A diagnosis. A realization. A release. And it's time to hear it. Right now, the sun you're ruling force is moving through your 12th house. This part of your chart doesn't deal with external success or social validation. It's about healing, isolation, closure. And if you're honest, you've probably been feeling it. That urge to slow down. That sense that your usual strength just isn't hitting like it used to. That maybe, just maybe, something deeper is asking to be seen. Tarot agrees. The Hermit is asking you to step away from the noise and turn inward. The Tower is warning that something you've been ignoring might crack open. And the Star? That's the promise that once the truth is out, you're going to heal like never before. So what does this mean for you? It means a doctor or someone with strong intuitive insight is coming into your life with information you can't afford to ignore. This person might show up through a conversation, a test result, or even a message you weren't expecting. Their role isn't random. They've been placed on your path to help you finally put the missing pieces together physically, emotionally, spiritually. Leo, I know how much you like to be in control. You lead. You shine. You push through when others would collapse. But right now, strength doesn't look like pushing harder. It looks like listening. It looks like letting someone else guide you for a moment so you can get back to full power. And this? This is your turning point. Not a breakdown. A breakthrough. One that starts the moment you stop pretending everything's fine and start asking what your body and spirit truly need. Take a deep breath. Sit with this. Reflect. And if any part of this message resonates with you, don't scroll past. Leave a comment below and say, I'm ready to hear the truth and heal from it. That's not just a sentence, it's an energetic agreement. It tells the universe, your guides, and yourself, you're open now. I want to thank you for being here. Your presence is powerful. Your time is sacred. And every comment you leave, every like or share you give, every new subscriber that joins us brings this space closer together. Eternal mindfulness was built to hold messages like this. Quiet messages that arrive right when they're needed most. So stay with me. Because what's coming next might be the most important thing your soul has heard in a very long time. Now, tell me what pulled you here today, Leo? There's something quiet about exhaustion that doesn't go away after rest. Something subtle about waking up tired even when you've slept through the night. If you're honest with yourself, Leo, you've probably noticed it had low buzz of fatigue in the background, that unexplained heaviness in your chest, or that sudden drop in motivation even when your goals are clear. And if you've been brushing it off, telling yourself it's just stress or one of those weeks, you're not alone. But you're also not wrong to pause and wonder if there's something more. As someone who has walked through burnout, healing, and back again, I can tell you this: your body never lies. It just waits for you to listen. Leos are known for being strong, for showing up no matter what. You take care of people, you carry the weight, and you do it with grace. But when you spend years being the steady flame for others, sometimes your own fire dims quietly, invisibly, until one day you wake up and realize you haven't felt like yourself in a long time. That's not weakness. That's human. Sometimes the body sends whispers. But if you keep ignoring those, the universe sends alarms. Right now, astrologically speaking, the sun is moving through your 12th house. It's not a spotlight kind of transit. It's not loud or public or glamorous. The 12th house asks you to retreat. To be still. It's a space of healing, of shedding what no longer serves you. In numerology, the number 12 carries the vibration of divine withdrawal, spiritual pause, internal reset. You're being invited to look at what you've buried under your responsibilities, your goals, your image. Not to judge it, but to finally witness it. Maybe it's not just your body that's tired. Maybe your soul is asking for room to breathe. The law of attraction teaches us that what we ignore, we manifest more of. Not out of punishment, but out of reflection. If you keep pushing past your limits, the universe lovingly, but firmly will place something in your path that forces you to stop. Maybe it's an illness. Maybe it's emotional burnout. Maybe it's someone else holding up a mirror and saying, "You don't look like yourself anymore." Not to hurt you, but to wake you up. I've seen this happen not just in charts, but in real life, with clients, with friends, with myself. It's not failure. It's a redirection. A recalibration of what matters. What would happen if you stopped for a moment and asked, "What do I truly need right now?" Not what others need from you. Not what's on your to-do list. But you're raw, present, honest. This is where healing begins. In stillness. In that deep exhale when you finally admit, "I'm tired, and I deserve to rest." If this resonates, I invite you to take a small but powerful step. Place your hand on your heart and say silently, "I'm listening now." And then actually listen. Journal what comes up. Track the physical symptoms you've been minimizing. Write down the dreams, the repeated symbols, the numbers you keep seeing. These synchronicities are not random. They're your soul reaching out. Even colors carry messages. Lately, if you've been drawn to see green, it may be your heart asking for softness. If you've been craving white, you may be longing for clarity and purification. Purple often shows up when your inner wisdom is ready to awaken and shift something deep within. You're not broken, Leo. You're being softened so that you can be made whole. Take a moment. Not everything requires a solution. Some things just need your attention. And when you give yourself permission to pause, to feel, and to name what hurts, you create space for healing that lasts. Let this be the season where you stop pretending and start listening. To your breath. To your fatigue. To your own sacred rhythm. Because what your body is telling you isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And the sooner you respond with care, the sooner your light returns, stronger and more grounded than before. It often starts with something small, a strange discomfort, a lab test you almost postponed, or a piece of news that hits harder than expected. But when the tower shows up in a reading, it rarely whispers. It breaks. It crashes. And not because life wants to punish you, but because there's something buried that can no longer stay hidden. That's what the tower symbolizes, the moment the illusion collapses, and the truth comes forward whether you're ready or not. Leo, in the story of your healing, this is the part where the ground trembles beneath the weight of what's been unsaid. You might be strong, composed, even radiant on the outside, but somewhere deep inside, a crack has been forming. Maybe it's from carrying too much responsibility. Maybe it's from ignoring your body's quiet protests. Or maybe it's from pretending you were okay when you weren't. Recent astrological events like the last eclipse or new moon have likely stirred something up. Eclipses tend to reveal what's been living in the shadows, especially when they activate sensitive houses like the 6th, health, 8th, hidden truths, or 12th, what you've avoided. They push what's silent into the light. That's why, even if the truth feels like a shock at first, it's also sacred. It brings you back to what's real. And real is where healing starts. The tower doesn't destroy just to destroy, it clears space. In your case, it might look like an unexpected medical diagnosis, or a sudden realization about someone close to you and their health. And yes, it might hit you in the gut. Your mind may spin, trying to make sense of it. But the point of this moment isn't to break you down. It's to wake you up. I've been there. Sitting in a sterile room, listening to words I wasn't ready to hear, heart pounding louder than the voice of the person speaking. There's this brief silence after a hard truth lands where you wonder, what now? This is where the real work begins, not in resisting what's been said, but in how you respond. First, breathe. Your breath is your anchor when everything else feels unsteady. Then, allow your emotions to move. The tears, the frustration, the disbelief, the part of the release. You're not being dramatic. You're being human. Then reach. Not in panic, but in trust. Reach out to someone who can help you hold this. A friend. A therapist. A doctor whose presence feels steady. Sometimes, that guide shows up when you least expect it, a person whose name might start with J or G, someone who seems to know things without you saying much. Their role isn't random. They're part of this healing architecture that's been forming around you quietly, waiting for you to step into it. You see, this tower moment may look like the end of control, but it's really the beginning of clarity. It's the moment you stop living in assumptions and start living in alignment. Like a mountain that finally acknowledges the crack in its core, you can now begin to rebuild from truth, not pressure. And what you create next will be stronger because it won't be built on what you think people expect of you, but on what's truly needed for your well-being. Let me ask you something that I've asked myself many times. Have you ever met someone whose presence shifted everything? A doctor who gave you not just a diagnosis, but a sense of peace? A stranger who said the one sentence you didn't know you needed? That kind of moment doesn't just happen. It's part of a deeper orchestration, one that invites you back into your own body, your own truth, and your own power. So if you're standing in the rubble right now, take heart. You're not broken. You're being recalibrated. And the dust in the air? That's the beginning of something new settling in. Let yourself stand still, feel it, and when you're ready, rebuild not from fear, but from faith in yourself and in the process that's unfolding. You're allowed to be shaken. What matters is that you don't walk away from what's real. Because in the space where the walls come down, the light always gets in. After the chaos of the tower, there's always silence, raw, unfamiliar, but honest. It's in that silence that the star rises. And if you're still here, still breathing through the uncertainty, still willing to look your truth in the eye, then you've already stepped into the energy of the star. That energy is not loud. It doesn't demand attention. It whispers. It holds. It rebuilds not from fear, but from deep, sacred hope. The star is what shows up when you've been through enough to finally stop pretending. It's what follows the storm, not to erase what happened, but to offer you something real in its place, healing. And not just physical or emotional healing, but a full energetic recalibration. A return to the core of who you are, beyond the roles, the masks, the survival modes. It's the part of the journey where you no longer need to be strong. You only need to be present. Astrologically, this phase aligns with supportive trines and sextilis cosmic angles that release tension, invite flow, and gently open doors where before there were only walls. These are the moments when you suddenly feel your breath return, your clarity sharpen, your body finally sleep through the night. But it doesn't happen by accident. You have to make space for it. You can't heal in the same environment that drained you. That's why your habits, your food, your routines, they matter more than ever now. If your body is your temple, now's the time to clear the altar. Add more greens, hydrate like it's a ritual, cut back on what overstimulates your nervous system. Sleep is not lazy, it's sacred. Movement is not punishment, it's release. Soft movement helps reset your frequency. Gentle yoga, walking without headphones, slow breathwork, all of it brings you back into the moment, back into your body. And writing? That's where stuck emotions go when they're finally ready to be seen. You don't have to solve them. You just have to give them a voice. Sometimes clarity doesn't come from asking others for answers. It comes from sitting down with your own story and actually listening. And here's what most people won't say out loud: not everyone gets to walk this part of the journey with you. Some people were meant to be part of the fire, not the rebuilding. As you begin to rise again, the space around you needs to be filtered. Anyone or anything that drains you more than it restores you, needs to go. That's not being cold. That's being clear. And clarity is the foundation of healing. When you allow yourself to align with the star, you begin to see things differently. Your intuition sharpens. You stop second-guessing yourself so much because your body starts telling the truth faster. What used to take you weeks to figure out, you now feel in moments. That inner yes or no becomes undeniable. This is your birthright, to feel what's right without having to ask for permission. The metaphor here is simple. Imagine a quiet stream after a storm. The water moves slowly, but it moves. The air smells different. The sky looks washed clean. That's what the star brings. Not just a break from pain, but a whole new landscape where you get to exist without fighting your way through. And that's what healing is. Not a return to who you used to be, but a gentle unveiling of who you were always becoming underneath it all. This is not just recovery. This is resurrection. Your body, your heart, your purpose theory all being reintroduced to each other in this moment. Let it happen. You don't need to rush. You don't need to prove anything. You only need to stay open. Because when you trust the quiet light of the star, you stop looking for direction outside of yourself. You remember that you've always carried it within. And now, for the first time in a long time, it's safe to follow it. There comes a point in your healing journey when you realize that giving isn't the problem, it's what you're giving from. Leo, you were born with a generous heart and a fire that naturally lights up everyone around you. But somewhere along the way, maybe you started giving from a place that wasn't full. Maybe your yes became automatic. Maybe showing up for others meant disappearing from yourself. This part of your story is about one essential shift, moving from self-sacrifice to self-honoring. You've probably heard the phrase, "You can't pour from an empty cup," and while it sounds cliché, the truth behind it is anything but. Because many people don't realize their cup is already dry until it starts to crack. And that's the thing about being the strong one, the leader, the uplifter, the emotional rock. No one stops to ask how you're really doing. And sometimes, neither do you. But here's the honest truth, your light dims when you forget yourself. Not out of punishment, but because your energy has boundaries, even if your love doesn't. You weren't designed to run on fumes. You weren't born to burn out for everyone else's comfort. You're not here to be the sun that never sets, you're here to shine in balance. When you've been living in overgiving mode for too long, your body knows. It tightens. It aches. It shuts down in subtle ways. And emotionally, you start feeling detached, resentful, even invisible. That's not you being too sensitive. That's your soul tapping the brakes. It's the divine intelligence of your system reminding you that self-care is not selfish, it's structural. It's how you hold the life you're building without breaking under the weight of it. So now it's time to make space. Real space. And that starts with sacred boundaries. Begin with small, clear no's to things that drain you. Practice saying, "Let me get back to you," instead of committing out of habit. Pay attention to how your body reacts when you say yes to something. Does it expand or contract? That's your inner compass. Learn to trust it. Protecting your energy also means creating rituals that restore you. This could be as simple as sitting in silence each morning before reaching for your phone. Taking salt baths to release what you've absorbed from others. Burning white sage, or simply lighting a candle and declaring, "This time is mine." It's less about the tool and more about the intention, reclaiming your space, moment by moment. And Leo, here's something you may not have given yourself permission to believe yet. You don't owe anyone a version of you that's running on empty just to maintain peace. Peace that costs you your well-being is not peace, it's performance. And your spirit knows the difference. You were not created to endlessly endure. You were designed to expand, to express, to thrive from a place of fullness. And when you live from that space, the people who truly see you won't be disappointed when you draw boundaries. They'll respect them. Because they'll feel the wholeness you radiate when you're no longer fragmenting yourself for everyone else's comfort. So I want to ask you something. Not as a teacher or a guide, but as someone who's been there. Are you trying so hard to be who others need you to be, that you've lost sight of who you actually are? Take a breath and be honest. Because the version of you that rises from here anchored, nourished, and rooted in truth, the version that finally lives, not just survives. Let this be the moment you stop apologizing for needing rest, for wanting more, for not answering every call, every message, every request. The people who love you won't leave when you slow down. And the ones who do? That's just another layer of space being cleared for something deeper, truer, and more aligned to take root. You're not here to prove your worth through exhaustion. You're here to embody your light from a place of fullness. That starts today. By now, you've probably started to feel it. This isn't just recovery. This is something deeper, an initiation into a new version of you. You're not just healing, you're becoming the kind of person who helps others do the same. And maybe that feels too big, too soon, too impossible. But think back for a second. You've already walked through fire. You've held yourself together in moments no one else saw. You've kept going when it would have been easier to collapse. That's not weakness. That's sacred preparation. The hermit shows up again here, not as a symbol of loneliness, but as a guide for your rebirth. In astrology and tarot, the hermit represents the journey inward, a conscious choice to step away from distractions so that truth can rise from within. Not someone else's truth. Not what the world expects from you. But your truth. The kind that reshapes how you show up in every area of life. When the hermit appears after the storm, it's because the soul needs quiet to process what it's just endured and to remember what it's here for. This is where soul purpose enters the conversation, not as a lofty idea, but as a deeply personal calling. Your purpose doesn't have to look like a career, a title, or a plan. Sometimes, it's as simple as being someone who lives in integrity, who speaks with clarity, who creates spaces for others to feel seen because you know what it's like to feel invisible. The wounds you've survived, they've made you luminous. Not because they define you, but because you've learned to carry them without letting them harden your heart. And that's where the shift happens. You go from being someone who carries pain, to someone who transforms it. You become the person who walks into the room and brings peace, not by trying but by being. Your presence becomes medicine. That's what it means to lead from the light. And Leo, that light was always in you. It just needed space to come forward. This is also where energy begins to work differently. The law of attraction teaches that once you've cleared the emotional residue of the past, those limiting beliefs, old grief, the need to prove your worth, you begin to attract things that match your actual vibration. The right people show up. Opportunities start to find you. Your health stabilizes. Love flows easier. Not because you're forcing it, but because you've become available to receive what aligns with your true path. That's when you start noticing signs everywhere. Numbers like 777 might appear, reminding you that full recovery is real, that you're already in it. 444 shows up when you're being divinely supported, even when you feel alone. And 999? That's the old chapter closing with grace, making space for what's next. And what comes next is up to you. This is the moment to write a new declaration for yourself. Not a goal. Not a resolution. But a soul promise. Ask yourself, if nothing held me back, no fear, no doubt, what would I create? Who would I become? Start from there. Write it down. Build a vision board. Speak it out loud until it starts to feel like something you're not chasing, but remembering. Leo, you were never meant to stay in the dark. You were always meant to rise. And now that you've walked through the fire, you get to decide what kind of world you want to build from the ashes. You get to turn the ruins into a sanctuary not just for yourself, but for the people who'll look to your story one day and say, because they made it, I know I can too. Your healing wasn't just for you. But it begins and ends with you. And that's what makes it so powerful. You are not just listening to a prediction. This moment isn't about forecasting your fate, it's about stepping into the fire of transformation and choosing to become something greater. If you've made it this far in this message, it means you're ready not just to receive healing, but to become the healing for yourself and others. You are not defined by the diagnosis. You are not defined by fatigue. You are not defined by what hurt you, or by the weight you've been carrying silently for years. You are the flame that is being reborn from the ashes. And that fire, Leo, is sacred. Maybe the doctor delivered news that shook your soul. Maybe a truth surfaced that you weren't prepared to hear. But nothing revealed to you now is meant to break you. It's meant to break you open. Open to clarity. Open to restoration. Open to the truth that your body, your heart, your spirit, all of it is not just something to survive with. It is the sacred vessel of your purpose. And sometimes, purpose doesn't show up in the spotlight. Sometimes it whispers to you through stillness. Through pain. Through the quiet hours where you are called to be your own healer. The Hermit card came back for a reason. You are being invited to withdraw, not to disappear but to rediscover. To rewrite. To redefine what you want this life to truly mean. So let me ask you, if you could rewrite your life from this moment forward, what would you begin with? What are you no longer willing to carry? What vision of health, love, peace, and joy are you ready to step into fully, without shame, without apology? This is not about waiting for a miracle to come and fix everything. This is about choosing to believe that you are already a miracle in motion. The numbers that keep showing up: 444, 777, 999, those aren't just codes. They are confirmations. You are not alone. You are not off track. You are exactly where healing begins. If you've survived the storm, now is the time to build your temple from the very stones that once tried to bury you. Not just to survive but to lead. To serve. To become a living lighthouse for others still lost at sea. Your sole purpose has never been clearer: to shine, to speak, to show the way. So go ahead. Write down your soul declaration. Make your vision board. Speak your health, your peace, your wealth into existence. Whisper your new chapter to the mirror if you must. But start today. Because the moment you begin honoring your truth, the universe moves mountains to support it. And if this message touched something in you, if a small part of your spirit whispered, "This is for me," then anchor it now by commenting, "I accept the truth and divine healing the universe has for me." This is your sacred agreement with the future you are choosing to create. And if you haven't already, I invite you with all my heart to subscribe to this channel, Eternal Mindfulness. This is your home for healing, for awakening, for finding the words when life feels too heavy. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to remember their light, and let's keep walking this journey together. You are not alone. You are not broken. You are the light. And it's time the world saw you burn brighter than ever.